shape?
Buffalo.
Buffalo. What cheese is buffalo? Why are you laughing? She's correct. It's buffalo, but it's mozzarella cheese. It's buffalo. And then sheep will give you your fetas, goats give you goat's cheese, and then we have cows that'll give you a whole bunch of different types. So we have cows here on the farm, about 120 of them. Twice a day we'll milk them. All the milk goes straight from these pipes into the tub, where once we have a full tub of milk, we just have to rewarm it to 35 degrees and add 2 things. Making cheese is super simple. So first, expat, how do you guys pronounce this word? Do you guys pronounce it as Gouda, Gouda, or Gouda? Gouda. Okay, so it's Gouda day. So these are going to be called Gouda starter cultures. They're just cultures that are going to make sure the type of cheese I get from my milk is going to become Gouda cheese instead of any other kind like cheddar, Parmesan, Edam. We want Gouda. So I need 2 of those into my milk, and then I need to add this. What would this be? It looks like a lot of things, doesn't it? It looks like soy sauce. Or it looks like Coca-Cola. When I have a group at like 8 a.m., they're all like, coffee. And whenever I have a group of hungover German teenagers, they're always like, rum. Yeah, not rum either. But maybe the word, the name of it, you'll recognize. In English, at least, it's called rennet. Does that ring a bell with anybody? You? And what would it be, sir?
Calf. Rumen.
Yeah. Close. What it is, you have 2 different types. So the first type is the traditional way of making cheese, and it's simply enzymes from the stomach of a cow. Because what those enzymes will do is break it down and curdle it, just like it would inside a cow in order to process it. Now, these days, doing that is very expensive, and it's not that common. So instead, what we use is this. And this is simply an enzyme that's almost exactly the same as a cow would produce, but instead, it's produced by yeast. And so all this is going to do is we're going to add it into our milk, and it's going to thicken it and make it curdled. And so after about half an hour, what we'll do is we'll take 3 large knives, attach it onto this machine hanging above my tub here, and simply for half an hour, we're going to turn the knives throughout the tub to cut my really thick milk into tiny pieces. After about half an hour of cutting, you'll get an entire tub full of curds and whey. So I'm sure you guys are aware of the nursery rhyme though, right? Mm-hmm. Little Miss Muffet? Who knows that one? Yes. Sat on her tuffet. What was she eating? Eating her curds and whey. Well, a lot of people are raised with that nursery rhyme, like myself, but as a little kid, as like 6 years old, you always think it's something good, like ice cream, or pudding, or porridge, or I don't know, something you maybe want to eat. Have you guys ever eaten raw curds and whey like this before? Nobody? Okay, well, when I first came to work here, I had to. My boss grabbed a handful of the curds, gave them to me, which are the little white pieces. How do you think they tasted? Well, we have 2 different ends of the spectrum. We've got delicious and horrible over here. All right, well, it's somewhere in the middle. It has no flavor whatsoever, which the off-putting part, though, is the texture, because they're very soft, they're very squeaky, and they're very rubbery. But they have no flavor whatsoever. And then the whey, which is the water, is rather sweet, because that's where most of the sugars from the milk are going to stay. And so, what do you guys think we need to make cheese? Do I need the curds, or do I need the whey? There's 50-50 chance you'll get it right. You could just throw out an answer. But we're going to need, have you guys ever heard of cheese curds? We're going to need the little tiny pieces in order to make our cheeses, which means every day I can either immediately start scooping out each one of my cheeses individually, putting them into my bucket, lid on top, and then underneath the press machine, where then for 1 hour on each side, it's going to press all my little pieces together to make one big piece, because they're very soft, they're very squishy. So you can press them together real easily to make one big one. So I can either immediately start scooping out my cheeses, or when I still have curds and whey, I can then add different herbs, seasonings, spices into the tub to make a different flavor. So can you guys think of any flavors we might make? Oh, come on. What can you add to cheese? What goes well with cheese? Oh, pepper. Do you guys like spicy food? We have one of the best chili cheeses you will ever taste. The farmer made it especially for his wife for their 10-year wedding anniversary. He was like, you know what? My wife loves spicy food, but you can't really find a lot of spicy food here in the Netherlands. So he came up with his farmer's flame cheese just for her. And I'll tell you, flames will come out of your ears. So be careful later when you try that. And so can add a whole bunch of chilies if you want. Our flavors range from garlic to ginger to taco to pesto to truffle to whiskey even. We have about 15 different flavors. All you have to do is make sure you have all of your curds in your net, lid on top, under the press, and after 2 hours, you'll get a cheese that looks like this one. So all we did is we took all of these little itty bitty pieces and squished them together to make one big piece. But wait, what do the curds taste like? Nothing. Oh, great. Now I've got a really big one. What's my cheese going to taste like? Nothing. Now that's not very fun. So at the end of the day, at around 4 o'clock, what is it now? 3:30 in like half an hour. What we're going to do is these are all the cheeses we made today. We're going to take them over and dump them into those big tubs of salt water that are on the other side of the room. Those are our brining baths. What it does is simply adds a little bit of flavor to the cheese, but acts as a natural preservative and kills any bacteria on or in the cheese. So we simply leave them in there overnight. Next day, take them out, let them dry, and then what do you think the last step is? What's the difference between these two? The color, right? So this one is a naked cheese. We still have to add a nice yellow, amazing coating of wax around the outside that allows us to preserve our cheese for a month, a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, however long we want. But what happens is that as a cheese sits and it ages, it's going to start to sweat out all the moisture and all the oil from the inside. So a young cheese is going to be soft and buttery and creamy because it has all of those oils. So when you open it up, it's just going to cut right on through. So you'll get this type of a cheese, the cheese you'll normally find on a sandwich. You could just take a cheese slicer and slice right on through to get these nice thick slices. But that's very different than, say, a year-old cheese like this one. It gets a little bit smaller after a year. But after about 3 years, you'll notice a big difference. It gets a lot smaller, but it's going to get also a lot drier, a lot more salt concentrated, so stronger in flavor. But most importantly, it's going to become, and most noticeably, a cheese like this one that's 3 years old is now rock hard. But can you still eat this?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the answer with cheese is always yes, right? And so this one, do you guys like Parmesan cheese? Ooh, old Gouda cheese is exactly like Parmesan cheese. But can you slice Parmesan cheese? No, right? You gotta grate it. So, old Gouda cheese is exactly like Parmesan. You just gotta take a cheese grater, a piece of old cheese, and just like you would Parmesan, you can grate these flaky, tiny pieces that you can put on pizza, pasta, salad, whatever you put Parmesan cheese on, you can put an old Gouda cheese on. So it doesn't matter, it's personal preference. Do you like young? Do you like old? It's up to you. You gotta try them all to figure it out. The only thing is, once you've broken the wax seal and cut it open, you do have to cover it, put it in the refrigerator, and there it stays good for about 2 to 3 weeks before it'll start to mold. But I mean, if you take from it every few days to make a sandwich or grate it over some pasta, it'll never have time to mold because you're constantly removing the exposed part, and the rest is just covered with wax. Alrighty, expat, do you guys have any questions about how we make cheese? Okay, perfect. We love you, expat. But